Morning. So as I was sitting in the doctor's office, waiting to hear that after 50 years old I am finally prone to ear infections, and being threatened with tubes as a surgery, 45 years without a surgery, and now I'm having tubes put in? Come on. Anyway, my wife thought it was funny. Just for those of you that wanted to know. I was sitting in the doctor's office and thinking about all this, thinking that's the dumb. And then I looked up and I realized that my problems weren't really that big because I was looking at the mudslides in California. In case you didn't know, California has had an unprecedented amount of rainfall, and it is causing flooding and mudslides all over California right now. As I was watching it, what I noticed is that the floods moving through, and it was something I've seen in other floods. It was interesting to me, not because it was good, but just because it was interesting. I saw whole houses being picked up in a flood, and it looked like they were just floating down the river. As I saw mudslides come down hills, you saw houses crumple and just go along with the mudslide. What I was thinking is I'm watching this going on, I'm thinking they're never even going to know where it came from. Because as the mudslides came through, it wiped out landmarks, it wiped out everything. As the floods came through, it picked everything up and took everything away. And it was scary. And they had people on there doing interviews. You know, there's always the guy, they put the microphone in his face, he's like, well, yeah, we had everything in the trailer and it's gone now. Really? What did you have in there? Well, everything. And I thought, okay, I've been that guy. But they had 2 or 3 people that they put on there, and they looked at them, and they kind of did this. They said, well, we know we live in California. We know it tends to flood. We knew we were on the side of a hill. So what we did is everything that was really important, we made sure we had copies of somewhere else. Everything that was really important, if we thought it was important, we only took it to the house if we needed to, but we kept a lot of our stuff that we really thought was special in a bank vault, or we kept it at our kids' house that was a little bit more sturdy, or we kept it somewhere else. And so the thing I noticed was this. Every time somebody talked about losing everything, it was because they were unprepared. But every time I saw somebody talk about keeping everything, it seemed like they had a foresight, or they had already thought about what the important things were to set those things aside. I got to be honest, I kind of find that being exampled, if it's up to me to look at, I kind of found that being exampled in Luke 2:19. It's one verse, it's very simple. But Mary treasured up these things and pondered them in her heart. I want you to think about something for a minute, kind of like what you've heard already today. Think about Mary's life at that point. The poor young girl had a deluge of horrible things happening to her. Not all of them were horrible, but a lot of things. An angel appeared to her and said, guess what? You're going to get pregnant and nobody's going to know how. Huh? She was so dumbfounded by it, she tried to say it couldn't happen. No, I can. I'm a virgin. No. The Holy Spirit's going to overshadow you and you'll become pregnant. Okay. That would be a pretty big thing in somebody's life, wouldn't it? Ladies, would that be a pretty big thing in life? But let's go ahead and compound that on being sent on a journey to her cousin's house a long ways away while she's pregnant, because we know all women love to travel when they're pregnant. How about this one? She gets back, and the betrothed that she's supposed to marry seems a little distant for a while. And then all of a sudden, he's all in on the pregnancy. He's all in on the marriage again. And you go, well, what's the deal? And he goes, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Because he'd had an angelic intervention as well. It gets to be about time. She's at the stage where most of the women I hear go like this: I want this child out of me. Now, if you have never had the pleasure of having somebody like that pregnant around you, God has blessed you in more ways than you know. But the truth of the matter is, and I have a friend who is currently in this position, she has looked at me and gone, I love this child, but I so don't want to be this close to it again for a while. She was ready to pop, and so was Mary. And Joseph goes, okay, honey, well, it's census time. You know what that means? And she goes, no. And he's like, yes. We have to go to Bethlehem. So another journey while she's pregnant. They get to town, and she looks at him and goes, did you reserve the room? And he goes, what room? So they travel from inn to inn and going, hey, do you have any space for us? Hey, do you have any space for us? Hey, can anybody, my wife is about to have a baby. Do you have any space? And Mary's sitting on the donkey going, come on. But there was no room in town for them. It was a freezing night. It was horrible. And let's just top everything off. Are you ready? We're topping everything in Mary's life off right now with this: childbirth. I want you to hear this part. Natural childbirth. No epidurals. Somebody wooed it. There you go. You would think childbirth would be about as much as this young girl could possibly handle in her life to this point. Just a flood of things. But no. There's an invasion of men that come into the place that she has just had a child. And she's like, what are you doing here? And they're like, we came to worship the king. And she's like, why? And they're like, an angel told us. And she's like, another angel. And then finally trying to be a mom to this little tiny newborn in a dirty, nasty barn. And that's the only place she got to sleep that night. You know, as I talk about it, I'm telling you from my own perspective, if those things happen to me, I would be tempted to just stop. Joseph would be like, honey, come on, let's do it. Nope. Let's do it. Nope. I mean, I think that's how the conversation would go with a lot of people. Your spouse might start talking to you, and you'd be like, nope. Do you want? Nope. Can I do? Nope. What are you going to do? I'm staying right here. It would have been really easy to stop. It might have been just as easy to start crying and not stop crying until you get home. Wouldn't that be the way it would be? I've had so much going on. At our house, this is how it works at our house. Sometimes my wife looks kind of sad. And I know she's going to cry. And so I, being the sensitive man that I am, look at her and go, is this one of those times I need to hug you because you're crying, or I need to leave you alone because you're crying? And I get my answer and I know what to do. Or I go, is this just an I need to cry, or is there something actually wrong that I can do? And whatever it is, she tells me. And I do that because I am a sensitive man who has no idea why my wife is crying whatsoever. But I'm willing to ask the question and be informed. Can you imagine Joseph? Honey, why are you crying? I don't know. Okay. Why are you crying? Really? Do you not know everything has happened? Apparently not. You know, take one big step back away. And so Mary has had this deluge, this flood of things that have come into her life and have started to push things about. It's understandable that all the wonderment of this time, all the things that might have been amazing about being the mother of the king, it is understandable that she would be wanting to keep these things, but it's also understandable that she would be like, I never want to think about this night again. Because the unrelenting difficulties in her life at that time might have been just too much. The truth of the matter is this, though. She did not allow the craziness to sweep her away. She didn't allow the craziness and the emotions to override her and to outdo her. Instead, what she did is she chooses to take a moment, step away from it, and pick things that are important to treasure in her heart. I honestly suspect that Mary probably didn't think, oh, you know, this really long journey from Bethlehem where my tushy hurt all the way on the donkey, let's treasure that part. I doubt if that's what she did. I doubt if I suspect that she didn't think about the smelliness of the shepherds and the loudness of the animals and everything else while she was in there. I suspect those were not important parts to her to remember. But I suspect the angelic intervention was absolutely something that she remembered. I suspect that she probably looked at the man next to her and appreciated the love that he showed her in that time. I suspect she looked at the little king laying in a manger. And I suspect she had a warm spot in her heart. See, Jesus was going to be the Father. The angels were talking about the Savior. And I suspect that the things she treasured up were all tied to the king, not the circumstances. Because I don't think Mary let the flood wash it away. I think she looked at what was important and put it somewhere in her heart, so no matter what the circumstances became, she could always ponder them and roll back into the love of keeping Jesus at her heart. I don't know how well I do with that. You see, Jesus looked at the treasures tied to the king. They were tied to his entry into the world. They were tied to his promise for the world. They were tied to this. And this is what I love. And I hope this is what Mary was thinking. I hope this is what she concentrated on while she was trying to think of what she was going to treasure up and ponder. I hope she was treasuring the things that made it God with us at that time. That she recognized that it was God with us. Because the truth of the matter is this. As Mary is treasuring up these things and she's realizing that she needs to be tied to Jesus and those are the things she wants to treasure, I have to wonder this. In the flood of the Christmas season that threatens to overwhelm us with all the demands we have. Now, I have a question in here. Has everybody had a nice, easy, relaxing Christmas that hasn't demanded too much on you and you've been able just to kind of lounge around and do nothing? There's maybe one or two people that are nodding their heads. I think that's because they found Amazon. But for everybody else, I see this face. And here's why. We get to Christmas. And the flood of Christmas, even the flood of things that we love, even the flood of the things I'm going to be honest with you and share something, because, I'm never honest or share anything. But our family always does cookies on Christmas Eve. That's normally what we do. We go and my wife makes sugar cookies with the kids, and then she makes royal frosting. And what we do is we go and we all sit down around the table, and I try to look at the cookies in every way I can and not make a Christmas cookie out of it. And my kids make Christmas cookies out of it, and when I start baking stuff, they're like, ooh, because I made Spider-Man out of a snowman one year. I just want you to know that. That's who I am. This year, we're going to finish in church here. We're going to pray. I assume we're going to try and have lunch. We're going to get to our house. We're going to throw cookies all over the table. We're going to throw royal icing all over the table. We're going to start decorating like a mad people. We're going to hopefully get done, throw them out, and let them dry, put them back in a box, and then we're going to hopefully get here and we're going to start decorating for the Christmas Eve program tonight. And then we're going to practice for Christmas Eve tonight. And then you guys are all going to come join us. Or did you just hear that part at 5:30? Everybody's going to come join us back? Make sure. Okay, so at 5:30, everybody's going to come back and join us for our Christmas Eve service, and we're going to worship with you about the King here at 5:30 tonight. Let me ask you something. Doesn't that sound like the nice, relaxed Christmas Eve we all try for? It is incredibly easy for us as a family and individuals to allow Christmas to overwhelm us and flood us to such a point that it knocks the things we treasure right off the board. I think the reason that we lose the Christmas spirit so much, such as we've talked about in the past, is that we just allow the flood of Christmas to wipe out what the Christmas spirit should be. And it should always be Jesus. I hope we look around. I hope today, my family, and I hope you guys do too. I hope we take a minute and I hope we shift our focus just for a little bit. And instead of looking at it as Christmas, we look at it as the coming of the King. Instead of looking at it as Christmas, I hope, instead of the flood of Christmas, I hope we look at it and we see the coming of Jesus, the Savior. I hope that we choose to look about and choose to fix our eyes on Jesus. It's hard. But I do know one thing. I love celebrating with the church. I like meeting up with people from work and being able to do stuff with them. I like being able to engage our family, particularly those that we don't see often. Anybody have any family coming in from out of town? 2 of you. Good job. Okay. I hope everybody else just lives in town. I hope that's what we're hearing. Anyway, I hope we treasure these moments, but I appreciate these moments through the eyes and compassion of Jesus Christ. I really hope this, that as we spend time with our families, we spend time with our friends, that we treasure up those moments and we don't allow them to be consumed by the avarice of gift giving. It's a hard lesson to learn, isn't it? Because we always hear it's better to give than to receive, right? Anybody in here feel like the giving part is overwhelming their Christmas to the craziness because you want to get everybody exactly what you think they want and blah, 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 blah? If not, you don't have kids. Just saying. I'm kidding. But the truth of the matter is we spend a lot of time working on gifts, and it's not about the gifts. We spend a lot of time doing the avarice of gifts, the gluttony of too many meals. I've gone to houses for Christmas dinner. It had a ham, a turkey breast, because, more white meat is always good. It had a huge bowl of mashed potatoes. It had chicken and noodles on the side. There was green bean casserole. Okay, now if you don't know what this is, I'm sorry, you haven't lived life right. Jell-O pretzel salad. If you want to know, talk to me later. Okay, so anyway, there's all this stuff sitting on the table, and I look around and count 6 people in the room. And you know what the worst part is? We ate most of it. We sat there and we consumed, and somewhere we went out, we were like, oh, it's a great Christmas. And you know what we all did? We all went and sat in the living room, and some fell asleep, and some just sat there looking like they were wishing their stomach didn't still exist in their body. I'm talking about food, but is there other gluttonies that you think of during this time of the year that could possibly be something that could cause a landslide? I even find that it's hard to section off time. We need to be jealous of our time because it is far too easy in this world for time to become something that we lose. I think we need to resist succumbing to the flood of first word folly and focus on the promise of salvation in the form of a baby in a manger. I think we need to learn to appreciate and treasure up the time that we get to spend with other believers. I think we need to ponder those things. Those should be the things that we look back on. One of the things I love about my family and going there with my parents and with everybody else is for Christmas time, part of what's cool about that is after we have had the monstrous meal, sometimes what we do is we go sit in the living room and instead of falling asleep, we start telling stories. We tell about when my brother and I were little and our dad threw us out in the snow in our underwear and we had to run around to the front of the house. The grandkids all like that one. We tell about when my son-in-law shot an arrow through the door of my house. He doesn't like that one. We tell all the stories. We tell all the things. We tell about when Kaylin got her horse and to even go out and see it, the first thing she had to do was go shovel all the horse apples up into a trash can because it was in my yard. We tell about all the times when we did first things or we did Christmassy things. We sit there and we reflect on it and we ponder on it because those are the things that we treasure, the time that we spend with other people when we are spending it in a way that is Christ-honoring. And I really like the way Hebrews 12, 1 through 3 says it. I think it's important to remember this. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. This season, I hope we really do. I hope we treasure the time that we have with our loved ones. I hope we invest in that time, and I hope we really enjoy it. I hope that we will avoid the things that create temptations for us. And there are many out there at this season right now. But I hope that we will avoid temptations. I hope we will be aware of the struggles of others. Sometimes it's not about just, treasuring up the things for you. Sometimes it's about helping somebody else who's having a hard time. I have some friends in Michigan. It's the first year that they have without any parents. Their dad died last year. And it's hard for them this year. I hope that during the hustle and bustle and drudgeries and all the issues that come up this season, that we are able to step above and stand above the flood of Christmas. Above the flood of the crazy, above the flood of the Santa Claus, above the flood of the gifts, above the flood of everything else, and that this Christmas we really do find the Christ in Christmas. That we allow ourselves to focus on Him rather than the flood. Even more than that, I hope that as we ponder the beginning of His story, I hope we don't forget the end. See, Christmas is really cool. We got to love that. Christmas is really cool because Jesus came, He was born, He was in a manger, and He is the King born, God with us. We all know the story. In about 33 years, this little boy is going to start walking around, except he's going to be a man. He's going to start talking in ways that people have never heard before and suggesting things that are going to drive other people crazy. He is going to go against the rulers. He's going to go against the organized religion of the day. He's going to say crazy things like the tree that's not producing is going to get cut off and the wild root's going to get grafted in. Hey, you should be really happy he says that one. He's going to eventually look at his followers and he's going to go, you know what? God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. Me. And if you believe in me, you won't perish. You'll have everlasting life. Not long after that, they're going to take Him out of a garden where He was praying. They're going to take Him and they're going to beat Him. They're going to hang Him on a tree and they're going to kill Him. And He's going to give up His life. And I say this often because I never want anybody to forget it. He's going to give up His life for you. Jesus is going to hang on a cross, and they're not going to take His life from Him. He's going to give it up. He's going to give it up so that He can redeem you, so He can purchase you back from death. They're going to put Him in a tomb for 3 days, and after 3 days, He's going to come out. He's going to walk among His followers. He's going to encourage them, and He's going to go, and He's going to sit at the right hand of God. And that's where He's at right now. So as much as we celebrate His coming to earth today at Christmas time, folks, let me remind you of this. Don't forget to be excited about when He comes again, because He ain't coming like a baby that time. He's coming like a king on a white horse, in a robe, with names only He knows, to take those of us that follow Him home. It's dangerous to let the flood overwhelm. But I hope that today you will treasure the first coming and you'll treasure the look at the second coming as well, to know that we are truly His. Invitation time today. Our worship team is going to come up and they're going to kind of put everything back together and they're going to work on getting all that. Here's what I want you to think about, though, today for invitation. It's really simple. Are you ready to stand above the flood? Are you ready to stand above the flood? Are you ready to be somebody who is not going to get trapped in everything? Are you ready to be somebody who is going to live like Christ during Christmas? There's a wild one, isn't it? I'm going to tell you something. Anybody been to Walmart lately? People aren't nice at Walmart. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying in the Christmas time, we all get a little crazy. I've seen some gestures that I don't think are friendly Christmas greetings. Here's what you can do to combat that. Be Christ at Christmas. Here's what you can do to combat that. At this time of invitation right now, if you don't know Jesus, we want to talk to you. That's important. But what I want you to do this season, from now to the new year, what I'm after is this. Be Christ. Be Christ at Christmas. Be Christ after Christmas. Show him to the world around you so that the world goes, there's something about you that's just really different, and I'd really like to know what it is. He didn't win people over by bludgeoning them in the head. He won people over by shaking their hands and eating meals with them. Your invitation today is to stand above the flood of Christmas and be Christ in a season that really